Dr. Minho Kang was cleaning his hands after treating a sick farm animal when the communication device on his desk started making strange sounds. The lights on the machine blinked red and blue in patterns he had never seen before. Minho stopped what he was doing and stared at the device for 3 years. Minho had worked as a veterinarian on New Horizon, a small human colony at the edge of known space. Most days he treated cattle, horses, and the local pets that colonists brought from Earth. It was quiet work, far from the busy cities of the core worlds. He liked it that way. The communication device made more noise. This was not a normal call from another human colony. The signals were too complex, too strange. Minho had heard about alien communications before, but he had never received one himself. He pressed the answer button with a shaking finger. The screen filled with light. And then Minho saw something that made his heart race. A tall figure appeared on the screen. The being had smooth, pale skin that seemed to glow with its own light. Its eyes were large and silver, like mirrors. When it spoke, its voice sounded like music mixed with thunder. "Human veterinarian," the alien said. "I am Commander Thizes of the Veltharian Empire. We require your assistance." Minho's mouth fell open. The Veltharian Empire was famous across the galaxy. They were one of the most powerful alien races with technology that humans could barely understand. Their ships could travel between stars in days, not months. Their weapons could destroy entire planets. What could they possibly want from him? I don't understand," Minho said. "You want my help?" Commander Tice's silver eyes seemed to look right through him. "Our Empress's most treasured companion is dying. Every healer in our empire has tried to save the creature. Our best medical technology has failed. The beast grows weaker with each passing hour." Minho felt confused. "But surely your doctors are much more skilled than me. Your technology is far beyond anything we have here." "That may be true," Commander Thizes said. His voice sounded tight, like he was forcing himself to speak. "But we have heard stories about human veterinarians. Stories that say you can heal. Creatures you have never seen before. Creatures that should be impossible to treat. What kind of creature is it?" Minho asked. Commander Thizes was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was softer. "A void stalker, the last of its kind born on our homeworld. It has been bonded to our Empress since she was a child. If the creature dies..." He stopped talking and looked away from the screen. Minho had heard of void stalkers in stories in old books. They were said to be the most dangerous predators in known space. Creatures that could move between dimensions, appearing and disappearing like ghosts. Most people thought they were just legends. "The creature is called Nethes," Commander Thizes continued. "It is suffering from an unknown sickness. Our medical scanners cannot identify the cause. Our healers cannot stop its pain. The Empress watches her companion die, and there is nothing we can do." For the first time since the call began, Commander Thizes looked directly at Minho. The alien's silver eyes showed something that surprised the human doctor. Fear, real, desperate fear. "Will you come?" Commander Thizes asked. "Will you try to save what we cannot?" Before Minho could answer, the door to his clinic burst open. Una Park, the colony's administrator, rushed in with Jiho Lee, the head of colony security. They must have been watching his communication signals. "Minho, don't even think about it," Una said. She was breathing hard like she had been running. "This is insane. You cannot go with them." Jiho nodded his agreement. "The Veltharians are known for their pride. If you fail to heal their creature, they will blame you. They might even kill you for wasting their time. But if I can help..." Minho started to say help. Una laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Minho, you treat farm animals and house pets. This is a void stalker. These creatures are living weapons. They can tear through metal with their claws. They can disappear into other dimensions. No one has ever successfully treated one." Commander Thizes had been listening to their conversation. Now he spoke again. "The human female speaks truth. This is dangerous. Our creature is in great pain, and pain makes even the gentlest beast dangerous. If you fail, the consequences will be severe. What exactly happens if I fail? Minho asked. The alien commander was quiet for a long moment. Failure to heal the Empress's companion would be seen as an insult to our empire. The punishment for such an insult is death. Jiho stepped closer to the communication device. There's your answer, Minho. Walk away. Tell them no. Minho looked at the screen again. Commander Theises stood straight and proud like all Valtharians were said to do. But Minho could see past the formal behavior. He could see the worry in those silver eyes. He had seen the same look in the eyes of pet owners who brought their sick animals to him. The look of someone watching a loved one suffer and not knowing how to help. How long has the creature been sick? Minho asked. 6 days, Commander Theises replied. Each day it grows worse. Our healers estimate it has perhaps 2 more days before the end. Minho closed his eyes and thought. 6 days of pain for a creature that had never done anything wrong. 6 days of watching someone you love suffer. He thought about all the animals he had helped over the years. The scared cats, the injured horses, the sick farm animals. He had become a veterinarian because he could not stand to see any creature in pain. Minho, Yuna said quietly, please think about this carefully. You have a good life here, a safe life. Don't throw it away. Minho opened his eyes and looked at his friends. Yuna and Jiho cared about him. They wanted to protect him. But they did not understand what he felt when he saw that fear in Commander Tice's eyes. Commander, Minho said, turning back to the screen. If I come with you, will you let me work in my own way, even if my methods seem strange to you? If you can heal Nethys, Commander Theises said, you may work however you wish. Minho took a deep breath. Then I accept. I'll come with you. Yuna made a sound of frustration. Jiho shook his head. But Commander Tice's silver eyes seemed to brighten with something that might have been hope. A ship will arrive at your colony. In 4 hours, the alien said. Bring whatever medical supplies you think you might need, and human ... Thank you. The communication ended and the room fell silent. Minho looked at his friends, knowing they thought he was making a terrible mistake. Maybe they were right. Maybe he was about to die trying to heal a creature that could not be healed. But somewhere in space, a creature was suffering and someone who loved that creature was watching helplessly. Minho could not turn away from that. He never had been able to, and he was not going to start now. He had 4 hours to prepare for the most dangerous case of his life. 4 hours later, Minho stood at the edge of New Horizon Colony with a single bag of medical supplies. The Valtharian ship hung in the sky above them like a dark metal mountain. It was bigger than anything Minho had ever seen, easily the size of a small city. Strange blue lights moved along its surface in patterns that hurt to look at. You still have time to change your mind, Yuna said. She had come to see him off, even though she disagreed with his choice. Minho shook his head. I made a promise. A beam of light suddenly surrounded him. Minho felt his feet leave the ground as the light pulled him up toward the ship. His stomach dropped as he rose higher and higher. The colony became small below him, then disappeared completely. When the light faded, Minho found himself standing in a large metal room. The walls were covered with symbols that glowed softly. The air smelled like electricity and something else he could not name. Everything was too clean, too perfect. It made him feel very small and very human. So you are the human veterinarian. Minho turned toward the voice. A tall Valtharian stood before him, but this one looked different from Commander Theises. This alien wore a dark uniform covered with metal decorations. His silver eyes were cold and unfriendly. I am Captain Vexstar, the alien said. This is my ship. You are here only because our Empress has lost her rational thinking in her grief. Do not mistake this for respect. I understand, Minho said. Quietly, Captain Vexstar walked around Minho like a predator circling prey. You understand nothing, human. You come here with your primitive tools and simple mind, thinking you can succeed where our greatest healers have failed. It is insulting. Then why did you bring me here? Minho asked. The captain stopped walking and stared at him. Because our Empress commanded it. And when Nethys dies, as it surely will, you will face the consequences of your failure? Perhaps. Then your species will learn not to waste our time with false hopes. Before Minho could respond, another voice spoke from behind him. Captain Vextar, you forget yourself. Minho turned to see Commander Theises entering the room. Behind him walked a human woman carrying several cases of equipment. She had kind eyes and looked to be about Minho's age. This is Dr. Yunbi Song, Commander Theises said. She requested permission to accompany you as your assistant. Yunbi stepped forward and bowed slightly to Minho. I work at the research station on Kepler Station. When I heard about your mission, I knew you would need help. I brought some of our best portable equipment. Minho felt relief wash over him. He had been worried about facing this challenge alone. Thank you for coming. Captain Vextar made a sound of disgust. Now there are 2 humans to fail. Commander Theises, escort them to the medical bay. Let them see what they cannot heal. Commander Theises nodded. Follow me, both of you. They walked through long corridors filled with more strange symbols and glowing lights. Other Veltharians passed them, but none spoke. They only stared at the 2 humans with expressions that mixed curiosity and contempt. Minho felt like an animal in a zoo. Your equipment is very basic compared to ours, Commander Theises said as they walked. Our medical scanners can examine every molecule in a living being. Our healing devices can repair damage at the cellular level. Yet none of this has helped Nethys. What exactly is wrong with the creature? Yunbi asked. Commander Theises slowed his walking. The symptoms began 6 days ago. Nethys started showing signs of cellular breakdown. Its dimensional phasing abilities became unstable. It could no longer control when it appeared or disappeared. Dimensional phasing? Minho asked. Void stalkers can move between dimensions at will, Commander Theises explained. It is their greatest ability and their primary defense. But now, when Nethys tries to phase, it causes the creature terrible pain. They stopped at a heavy door marked with warning symbols. Commander Theises placed his hand on a panel, and the door slid open. Our medical officers believe the creature is suffering from some form of dimensional sickness, he continued. But our scanners cannot detect the source. Every treatment we try makes the condition worse. Have you tried? Yunbi began. We have tried everything, Commander Theises said firmly. Quantum healers, neural rebuilders, cellular regenerators. Nothing works. The creature grows weaker each day. They entered another corridor, this one lined with more medical equipment than Minho had ever seen. Machines hummed and beeped, their displays showing information in alien languages. Everything looked advanced beyond human understanding. Our head medical officer, Sub-Commander Zara, will explain the failed treatments in detail, Commander Theises said. She is ... not pleased about your presence here. As if summoned by his words, another Veltharian appeared. This one wore a white uniform and carried a device covered in blinking lights. Her silver eyes looked even colder than Captain Vextar's. These are the humans? Sub-Commander Zara asked. She looked at Minho and Yunbi like they were insects. They appear even more primitive than I expected. We're here to help, Minho said. Sub-Commander Zara laughed, but the sound held no humor. Help? With what? Your simple tools and basic knowledge? We have studied medicine for thousands of years. Our technology can heal injuries that would kill your kind instantly. What could you possibly offer? A different point of view, Yunbi said calmly. A different point of view, Sub-Commander Zara repeated. How wonderfully human. You think your ignorance is somehow valuable. They continued walking deeper into the medical section. The equipment became even more complex, the humming louder. Minho began to understand why the Veltharians thought human medicine was primitive. Compared to this, his veterinary tools looked like toys. The creature is being held in Medical Bay 7, Commander Theises said. We have constructed the strongest containment field our technology allows. Even in its weakened state, Nethys remains dangerous. Dangerous how? Minho asked. Void stalkers are natural predators, Sub-Commander Zara explained. Their claws can cut through any known material. Their teeth can crush metal. When they are in pain, they become violent. They stopped before another door, this one much thicker than the others. Warning lights flashed around it in bright red. Even through the heavy barrier, Minho could hear something that made his blood cold. It was a sound of pure agony, a cry that seemed to come from the deepest part of a creature's soul. The sound rose and fell in waves, each note filled with such pain that it hurt to listen to. "That is Nethys," Commander Theises said quietly. "It has been making that sound for 3 days now. Nothing we do can stop its suffering." Minho felt his heart break a little. He had heard many animals in pain during his career, but never anything like this. This was the sound of a creature that had given up hope. "Our Empress sits with the beast every day," Subcommander Zara said. "She has not eaten or slept properly since this began. She believes that if Nethys dies, part of her will die with it." The crying sound came again, longer this time. Minho could not stand it anymore. "I need to see the creature," he said. Commander Theises looked surprised. "Now? Do you not wish to study our medical reports first? Review our treatment attempts?" "The reports can wait," Minho said. "Right now, I need to see what we're dealing with." Subcommander Zara shook her head. "Typical human impatience. You have no plan, no strategy. You simply want to rush in and hope for the best?" "Sometimes," Yimby said, "seeing the patient is more important than reading about it." Commander Theises placed his hand on another panel. The thick door began to slide open, and the sound of Nethys' agony grew louder. "Very well," he said, "but remember, humans. This creature has killed our finest warriors. Pain has made it unpredictable. Stay behind the containment field at all times." Minho nodded, but his attention was already focused on what lay beyond. The door, somewhere in that room, was a creature in terrible pain, and he was possibly the only one who could help it. The door finished opening, and Minho stepped into Medical Bay 7 to face the impossible. The first thing Minho saw when he entered Medical Bay 7 was the massive containment field. Blue energy crackled in the air, forming an invisible wall that separated them from what lay beyond. The field hummed with power that made his teeth ache. Then he saw Nethys, and his breath caught in his throat. The creature was enormous. Even lying on its side, it was easily twice the size of the largest elephant Minho had ever seen. Its body was covered in scales that seemed to be made of living crystal. The scales shifted and changed color constantly, creating patterns that hurt to look at directly. Sometimes parts of the creature seemed to fade away, becoming see-through, then solid again, but what should have been magnificent was instead heartbreaking. Nethys was clearly in terrible pain. Its massive body shook with tremors that ran from head to tail. The crystal scales flickered wildly, unable to maintain their natural patterns. Each time the creature tried to phase between dimensions, its body convulsed as if electricity was running through it. The sound it made was even worse up close. Deep, mournful cries that seemed to come from the creature's very soul. Between the cries, Nethys panted heavily, its huge chest rising and falling in rapid, shallow breaths. "Magnificent, is it not?" said a new voice. Minho turned to see another. Valtharian approaching? This one was different from the others. She wore robes of deep purple instead of a uniform, and her skin had a golden tint that spoke of high rank. Most importantly, her silver eyes held the same desperate fear that Minho had seen in Commander Theises. "I am Empress Zilara," she said. "Simply, and that is my Nethys." Minho bowed his head respectfully. "Your Majesty, I'm Dr. Minho Kong." The Empress looked much younger than Minho had expected. She was tall and elegant like all Valtharians, but there was something fragile about her now. Dark circles under her silver eyes showed she had not slept in days. Her hands shook slightly as she looked at her suffering companion. "Nethys has been with me for 20 years, the Empress said quietly. "Since I was a child, we have been bonded. What one feels, the other feels. Its pain is my pain." As if hearing her voice, Nethys lifted its massive head and looked toward the Empress. For a moment, the creature's cries stopped. It made a softer sound, almost like a whimper, and tried to move closer to the containment field. But the movement caused another wave of pain, and the creature collapsed back down with a roar of agony. "We have tried everything," Sub-Commander Zara said, walking up behind them. She gestured to the many machines surrounding the containment field. "Quantum cellular repair, neural pathway reconstruction, dimensional stabilizers. Nothing helps." Yunbi was already setting up her equipment near the containment field. Her machines looked tiny and simple compared to the Valtharian technology, but she worked with quiet confidence. "What do your scanners tell you about the creature's condition?" Minho asked. Sub-Commander Zara activated a large display screen. Complex diagrams and numbers filled the air in front of them. "Cellular breakdown is accelerating," she explained. "The creature's ability to control its dimensional phasing is completely disrupted. Each time it attempts to phase, the process causes massive tissue damage." "But what is causing it?" Minho asked. "We do not know," Sub-Commander Zara admitted. "Our scans show no disease, no poison, no injury. Yet the creature dies more each day." Minho walked closer to the containment field. Nethys was watching him now with eyes like liquid silver. Even through its pain, the creature seemed curious about this strange new being. "What happened 6 days ago?" Minho asked. "When did this start?" The Empress and Sub-Commander Zara exchanged glances. Commander Thyses stepped forward to answer. "There was a battle," he said carefully. "A group of rebels attacked one of our ships. They used a new weapon, something that could disrupt dimensional technology." "Nethys was on the ship?" Umbi asked, looking up from her equipment. "Yes," the Empress said. "The weapon did not directly hit Nethys, but it was close. The blast affected all dimensional technology in the area." "But our scans show no physical damage from the weapon," Sub-Commander Zara added quickly. "The creature was not injured." Minho continued to study Nethys. Something about the creature's behavior was bothering him, but he could not put his finger on what it was. "Doctor, what are your intentions?" Commander Thyses asked. "How do you plan to begin treatment?" The question surprised Minho. He realized that all the Valtharians were staring at him, waiting for him to do something. They expected him to pull out some device, to start some procedure. "I want to watch," Minho said. "Watch?" Sub-Commander Zara repeated. "That is your treatment plan, to watch?" "For now, yes." The medical officer's voice rose in anger. "We do not have time for watching. The creature dies while you waste precious hours doing nothing." "Sometimes doing nothing is the most important thing you can do," Minho said calmly. Captain Vextar, who had been silent until now, stepped forward. "This is exactly what I expected from a human. No plan, no action, just primitive observation." "If you prefer," Minho said, "I can leave now." The captain opened his mouth to agree, but Empress Zilara raised her hand for silence. "Let the human work as he sees fit," she said firmly. "We have tried our way, now we try his." Sub-Commander Zara looked like she wanted to argue, but she did not dare disagree with the Empress. Instead, she moved to her control station and began. Checking the various monitors, Minho found a chair and positioned it where he could see Nethys clearly. Yunbi joined him, setting up her basic monitoring equipment nearby. "What exactly are we watching for?" she asked quietly. "I'm not sure yet," Minho admitted. "But there's something about this situation that doesn't add up." For the next 2 hours, Minho simply observed. He watched how Nethys moved, how it reacted to different sounds and lights. He noticed when the creature's pain seemed worse and when it seemed slightly better. The Valtharians grew increasingly impatient. They whispered among themselves, clearly thinking that the humans were wasting time. Captain Vextar left the room in disgust. Even Commander Thyses began to look doubtful, but Minho was starting to see patterns that the advanced scanners had missed. Nethys' pain seemed to spike whenever certain sounds occurred: the hum of the dimensional stabilizers, the beep of the quantum scanners, anything that reminded the creature of dimensional technology. When these sounds stopped, the creature became slightly calmer. More importantly, Minho noticed that Nethys' attempts to phase weren't random. The creature tried. to phase whenever it felt threatened or stressed. And each failed attempt made the creature more agitated, creating a cycle of pain and fear. "Yunbi," Minho said quietly, "can you get readings on the creature's stress levels?" "Already on it," she replied, adjusting her equipment. "Heart rate, brain activity, hormonal indicators. Everything suggests extreme psychological distress." "Psychological?" Sub-Commander Zara had overheard them. "The creature is not psychological. It is a simple predator. Simple predators don't live for hundreds of years and bond with other species," Minho pointed out. "Nethys is clearly intelligent. Intelligence does not mean it can suffer from mental problems," the medical officer argued. Minho stood up and walked closer to the containment field. Nethys watched him approach, its silver eyes full of pain and something else. "Something that looked almost like ... fear," Minho said suddenly. "It's afraid." "Afraid of what?" the Empress asked, moving to stand beside him. Minho looked at the machines surrounding them, at the dimensional stabilizers and quantum scanners. He thought about the weapon that had disrupted dimensional technology 6 days ago. "It's afraid." "Of its own abilities?" he said. "Something happened during that battle. Something that made Nethys afraid to use its dimensional phasing. But it's still trying to phase instinctively, and each attempt terrifies it more." The room fell silent except for Nethys' labored breathing. "That is impossible, Sub-Commander," Zara said finally. "You are suggesting the creature has developed a fear response to its own natural abilities." "Why is that impossible?" Yunbi asked. "Because it would mean ... Sub-Commander Zara stopped talking and stared at Nethys with new understanding. "It would mean that all your advanced medical technology can't fix what's really wrong," Minho finished. "Because what's wrong isn't in the creature's body. It's in its mind." Empress Zilara moved closer to the containment field. "Nethys," she called softly, "my dear friend." The creature lifted its head and made that soft whimpering sound again. For a moment, its scales stopped flickering so wildly. "If you are correct," the Empress said to Minho, "how do we heal a mind that has been broken by fear?" Minho watched Nethys respond to the Empress's voice and knew he was on the right track. The question was whether the Veltharians would accept a treatment that had nothing to do with their advanced technology. "We help it remember that it's safe," Minho said. "We show it that its abilities are not dangerous. And we do it very, very slowly." The real work was about to begin. The next morning, Minho returned to Medical Bay 7 with a new plan. He had spent the night reading everything he could find about void stalkers and their natural behaviors. More importantly, he had thought about every traumatized animal he had ever treated back on Earth. "You wish to do what?" Sub-Commander Zara asked, staring at Minho like he had lost his mind. "Turn off the dimensional stabilizers," Minho repeated. "All of them?" "That is madness," Captain Vextar said. He had returned to watch what he expected to be Minho's final failure. "Those machines keep the creature's phasing under control. Without them, Nethys could disappear into another dimension and never return. Or it could phase accidentally and tear a hole in the ship," Sub-Commander Zara added. "The stabilizers are there for everyone's safety." Minho looked at Empress Zilara, who had not left her companion's side since yesterday. She looked exhausted, but her silver eyes were alert. "Explain." "Your reasoning?" she said quietly. "The stabilizers are making constant noise," Minho said. "Every beep and hum reminds Nethys of that weapon. The creature can't relax because it's constantly being reminded of what hurt it." Yunbi nodded from where she was monitoring her equipment. "The stress readings support this? Nethys' anxiety spikes every time the stabilizers cycle." "But without the stabilizers, the creature could phase uncontrollably," Commander Thyses pointed out. "Maybe," Minho said. "Or maybe Nethys will finally be able to control its own abilities again. Right now, the machines are doing the thinking. For the creature, we need to let it remember how to think for itself." Sub-Commander Zara shook her head firmly. "I cannot allow this. The risk is too great." "The risk of doing nothing is greater," Minho replied. "How long does Nethys have left?" The medical officer looked at her readings. "Perhaps 1 day, 2 at most." Then we have nothing to lose. Empress Ilara stood up slowly. Her legs shook slightly from sitting in the same position for so long. Do it, she said. Your Majesty, Sub-Commander Zara began. Do it, the Empress repeated, her voice carrying the authority of absolute rule, with obvious reluctance. Sub-Commander. Zara began shutting down the dimensional stabilizers one by one. The constant humming that had filled the medical bay gradually faded away. Soon, the only sounds were Nethys' labored breathing and the quiet beeping of Yunbi's monitoring equipment. For several minutes, nothing changed. Nethys continued to lie on its side, scales flickering weakly. Then, gradually, the creature's breathing began to slow. The wild flickering of its crystal scales settled into a more regular pattern. It's working, Yunbi whispered, watching her. Readings. Stress levels are dropping. But Minho was focused on something else. For the first time since he had arrived, Nethys was not making sounds of pain. The creature was still clearly suffering, but the constant crying had stopped. Now what? Commander Thyses asked. Now we wait, Minho said. And we make this place feel safe. Over the next several hours, Minho made a series of requests that seemed increasingly strange to the Veltharians. He asked them to dim the harsh lights in the medical bay. He requested that they play soft sounds, recordings of wind and water from Nethys' homeworld that the Empress had in her personal files. Most importantly, he convinced the Empress to sit closer to the containment field and simply talk to her. Companion. Not giving commands or expressing worry, just sharing peaceful memories of their time together. Tell Nethys about the quiet times, Minho suggested, when you were both young and nothing bad had happened yet. As the Empress spoke in her musical Veltharian language, something remarkable began to happen. Nethys' scales started to show more stable patterns. The creature's breathing became deeper and more regular. Most importantly, it began to respond to the Empress's voice with soft sounds of its own. This is impossible, Sub-Commander Zara muttered, staring at her medical readings. The creature's cellular regeneration is improving. How can talking and soft music heal what our technology could not? Because you were treating the wrong problem, Yunbi explained. Your machines can heal a body, but they can't heal a mind. Captain. Vextar watched the proceedings with growing amazement. Are you saying that our medical science missed something so simple? Not simple, Minho corrected, just different. Your people have eliminated emotional weakness from your own species. You don't understand trauma because you don't allow yourselves to feel it. As the day progressed, Nethys continued to improve. The creature even managed to lift its head for longer periods, looking around the medical bay with growing awareness. Instead of blind pain, but the real test came that evening. Net HYS suddenly tensed, its scales beginning to flicker rapidly. The creature was trying to phase, and everyone in the room held their breath. Without the stabilizers, there was nothing to stop Nethys from disappearing into another dimension. Should I restart the stabilizers? Sub-Commander Zara asked urgently. No, Minho said firmly. Let it try. Nethys' body began to fade, becoming transparent around the edges. But instead of the violent, painful phasing attempts they had seen before, this was different, slower, more controlled. The creature phased about halfway, then stopped. It remained suspended between dimensions for several seconds, neither fully solid nor fully gone. Then, carefully, deliberately, Nethys phased back to full solidity, for the first time in 6 days. A successful phase had not caused the creature pain. Empress Ilara began to cry, tears of relief streaming down her face. It remembered, she whispered. Nethys remembered how to control it. But Minho knew they were not finished yet. One successful phase did not mean the creature was healed. The real work of rebuilding Nethys' confidence was just beginning. The next 3 days were the hardest of Minho's life. Nethys was improving, but progress was slow and difficult. Some days the creature seemed almost normal, responding to the Empress and successfully controlling its phasing. Other days the fear would return, and Nethys would collapse back into pain and panic. This is like treating a war veteran, Minho explained to Commander Thyses. The mind can heal, but it takes time. And sometimes the old fears come back without warning. The Veltharians struggled to understand this concept. Their society had no experience with psychological trauma. When one of their people was mentally damaged, they simply used technology to repair or replace the affected brain areas. Why not simply remove the creature's fear? Sub-Commander Zara asked. We have neural editors that could delete the traumatic memories. Because those memories are part of who Nethys is now, Minho replied. If you delete them, you'll delete part of the creature's personality. You want to heal Nethys, not create a different being. Instead, Minho focused on what he called positive association therapy. The idea was to help Nethys build new, good memories around its dimensional abilities to balance the bad ones. The breakthrough came when Minho suggested something that shocked everyone. I want to take Nethys outside the containment field, he announced. The medical bay fell silent. Even Empress Zilara looked alarmed. Absolutely not, Captain Vextar said immediately. The creature is still dangerous. If it panics, it could kill everyone in this room, Sub-Commander Zara finished. I cannot allow this. But Minho had been watching Nethys carefully. The creature's responses to the Empress were becoming stronger and more consistent. More importantly, Nethys had been looking at the containment field with what looked like frustration. The field is making Nethys feel trapped, Minho explained. Like a cage. We need to show the creature that its abilities can be used for freedom, not just escape from pain. Yumbi supported his reasoning with data from her equipment. The creature's stress levels increase whenever it looks at the containment barrier. It associates the field with being trapped and helpless. Empress Zilara considered this for a long time. Finally, she made her decision. Lower the containment field, she ordered. Your Majesty, I must protest, Sub-Commander Zara began. The decision is made, the Empress said firmly. As the energy barrier flickered and died, everyone in the room tensed. Nethys lifted its massive head, silver eyes wide with surprise. For several seconds, the creature did not move. Then slowly it began to stand. Minho felt his heart racing as the full size of the Voidstalker became apparent. Standing, Nethys was taller than any creature he had ever seen. Its crystal scales caught the light and threw rainbow patterns across the walls. Despite its recent illness, the creature radiated power and grace, but instead of attacking or fleeing, Nethys did something unexpected. It walked slowly toward Empress Zilara and lowered its great head, allowing her to touch its snout. Hello. My old friend, she whispered. Net HYS made a sound Minho had never heard before, a deep, rumbling purr that seemed to vibrate through the entire room. The creature was expressing contentment for the first time since Minho had arrived. Over the next few hours, they worked on rebuilding Nethys' confidence step by step. First, the creature practiced short phases while staying close to the Empress, then longer ones. Finally, Nethys began to phase just for the joy of it. Appearing and disappearing around the medical bay like it was playing a game, the Veltharians watched in amazement. They had never seen their apex predator behave playfully. Before, how did you know this would work? Commander Thizes asked. I didn't, Minho admitted. But I've seen this pattern before. Animals that have been traumatized often recover faster when they feel they have choices again. The containment field took away Nethys' choices. Sub-Commander Zara was studying her medical readings with disbelief. All vital signs are returning to normal. Cellular regeneration is accelerating. It's as if the creature was never sick at all. But the real test came the next day when alarms began sounding. Throughout the ship? What's happening? Minho asked. A Dr. Vextar's voice came over the communication system. Rebel ships are attacking. All personnel to battle stations. Minho felt Nethys tense beside him. The creature's scales began to flicker with the old fear. The sounds of the battle, the weapon discharges, the dimensional disruptions were bringing back the trauma. It's happening again, Empress Zilara said, reaching for her companion, but this time was different. Instead of collapsing in pain, Nethys moved to stand protectively in front of the Empress. The creature's phasing became controlled and deliberate, not an escape from fear, but a preparation for defense. Nethys wants to help fight, Minho realized. That's impossible, Sub-Commander Zara said. The creature is a companion, not a weapon. But Empress Zilara understood. Nethys was bred to be a protector. Healing its mind means accepting all parts of its nature. The battle was brief but intense. Nethys used its dimensional abilities to confuse the enemy ships, appearing and disappearing around their positions. But more importantly, the creature showed no signs of the panic and pain that had nearly killed it. When the rebels retreated, Nethys returned to the medical bay and curled up beside the Empress like a contented cat. The creature was truly healed. 2 weeks later, Minho stood once again on the surface of New Horizon Colony. The Valtharian ship hung in the sky above, preparing to depart. But this time, everything was different. The Empress has asked us to stay, Umbi said, reading from a formal document. She wants to establish a new medical research program combining Valtharian technology with human psychological methods. Minho smiled. And what did you tell her? That we need to think about it. This is our home. The communication device in Minho's clinic activated, and Empress Zalara's face appeared on the screen. Behind her, Nethys could be seen resting peacefully, its crystal scales showing the steady patterns of perfect health. Dr. Kang, the Empress said, I wanted to speak with you before we departed. How is Nethys? Minho asked. Perfect. Better than perfect. The creature has not only recovered, but seems stronger than ever. More importantly, we have learned something valuable about healing that we never understood before. The screen shifted to show Sub-Commander Zara, who looked very different from the proud, dismissive officer Minho had first met. Doctor, she said, I owe you an apology. I believe that advanced technology was always superior to simple methods. I was wrong. Not wrong, Minho corrected, just incomplete. Your technology is amazing for healing bodies, but minds need something different. Commander Thyses appeared next to the medical officer. The story of what you accomplished here has spread throughout our empire. Many of our healers are requesting training in human psychological methods. And it's not just healers, Empress Zilara added. The military wants to understand how trauma affects soldiers. Our scientists want to study the connection between mind and body that we had ignored. Captain Vexstar was the last to appear on screen. He looked uncomfortable but determined. Human, he said stiffly. I judged your species based on your technology. I thought simplicity meant weakness. I have learned that sometimes the simplest solutions are the most powerful ones. Minho felt a warmth in his chest that had nothing to do with the colony's sun. Thank you, Captain. That means a lot. There is more, Empress Zilara continued. Word of your success has reached other species across the galaxy. We have received requests from the Andromedan Collective, the Spiral Federation, and even the Mysterious Watchers. They all want to know about human healing methods. Yumbi's eyes widened. They want veterinarians? They want healers who understand that bodies and minds are connected, Commander Thyses explained. Apparently this is knowledge that only humans possess. Over the next hour they discussed the implications. The Valtharian Empire was offering to establish the first interspecies medical academy. Human doctors and veterinarians would work alongside alien healers to develop new treatment methods. It would mean leaving New Horizon, Minho said thoughtfully. Not necessarily, Empress Zilara replied. We could build the academy here. Your colony could become a center of medical learning for the entire galaxy. Una Park, who had been listening to the conversation from nearby, stepped into view of the screen. Empress, she said, New Horizon accepts your proposal. After the communication ended, Minho sat quietly in his clinic. So much had changed. In just 2 weeks. He had started by trying to heal one sick creature and ended up changing how an entire empire thought about medicine. No regrets? Yumbi asked, joining him at the window. None, Minho replied. Though I have to admit, I never expected my career to go in this direction. Outside, ships from a dozen different species were already beginning to arrive. The news had traveled fast across the galaxy. Everyone wanted to learn about the human who had healed the unhealable. But Minho's favorite visitor came last. The Veltharian ship descended one final time, and a familiar massive form materialized in the field outside his clinic. Nethys had phased down from the ship to say goodbye. The great creature approached the clinic slowly, its crystal scales showing patterns of contentment and gratitude. It looked at Minho through the window with those silver eyes that had once been filled with pain. Empress Zilara appeared moments later, having transported down in the normal way. Nethys wanted to thank you personally, she explained. Minho walked outside and approached the massive creature. Nethys lowered its great head, allowing the human doctor to touch its snout just as the Empress had done. Take care of yourself, Minho said softly. Nethys made that deep, rumbling purr and gently touched Minho's shoulder with the tip of one enormous claw. Then the creature stepped back and phased away, returning to its ship. The bond between healer and patient, Empress, Zilara observed. It truly does transcend species. As the Veltharian ship departed for the final time, Minho reflected on everything that had happened. He had come so close to walking away from that first desperate communication. The safe choice would have been to stay on New Horizon and continue treating farm animals. But sometimes the most important thing you can do is help someone who is suffering, regardless of the risks. The galaxy had learned that humans make excellent doctors not because of their technology, but because of their compassion. And sometimes, compassion is the most advanced medicine of all. In the distance, more ships were arriving. Representatives from species Minho had never even heard of, all coming to learn about human healing methods. The foolish human veterinarian who had dared to treat the alien queen's beast had become something more. He had become a bridge between species, a teacher who could help the galaxy understand that healing is about more than just fixing what is broken. It's about understanding that every living being, no matter how different, deserves to be free from pain. And that was a lesson worth risking everything to share.